This is Roger Struckhoff with Syscon TV. We are at Cloud Expo and the DevOps Summit in Santa Clara in the year 2015, believe it or not. I'm joined again by Marc Hornbeek with Spirent, and we're going to talk a little DevOps. And we're going to talk about testing topologies, or the topologies of things that need to be tested. Marc, thanks for joining us. What should we talk about?
Hey, it's good to see you again, Roger. I remember talking to you in New York, all right. And basically my talk here in Santa Clara has to do with, again, continuous testing, because Spirent really has a lot of things to offer in the context of continuous testing solutions for DevOps. The problem with DevOps and testing is that when you've got something complex to test, it's hard to get coverage quickly, because DevOps is all about speed. So if you've got something like a whole network of nodes that are interconnected in a topology, how do you do that in a DevOps cycle? So that's really what I was here to talk about at the show, and to explain how to do that. And I used an example, the software-defined networks and network function virtualization is a great example of how customers are struggling to do DevOps with these more sophisticated applications that are networked together, and in fact have to provide network functions at the same time. So that's the trick.
Well, astronauts they fix the International Space Station, and while it's moving, it doesn't look like it's moving to us. But isn't this a little bit like you're trying to fix something while it's moving in the air? I mean, the whole idea of DevOps and the whole idea of continuous integration is that it never ends, but you got to test it at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. I get tired, in fact, of seeing these diagrams, such as the one that was even just ahead of me in my talk, where they've got this testing represented as a phase after integration and before delivery. It's a lot more challenging and sophisticated than that. To get DevOps right, testing has to be integrated all the way from conception phase, prior to integration phase, during integration, after integration, regression, delivery, deployment. All of that involves testing. In fact, all the tool stack for monitoring the infrastructure as well as the test result, all of that has to involve a strategy for integrating testing. It's a lot more than just having a test after an integration phase. So that's where it gets interesting, especially in these complex scenarios that involve topologies of nodes and links in order to make it.
These topological problems, I'm thinking, we say you got to get your data out of silos. You got to get your applications out of silos and services and decouple them, this and that. And yet you see diagrams that show the actual phases and process in silos. And it seems like unclear in the concept. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, basically, it's exactly right. If you think about where is DevOps going in the next gen of applications, whether it's medical field with healthcare.gov, or whether it's networks or mobile or financial systems, a lot of these software applications are not standalone entities. They're entities that have to work together and cooperate. How do you make sure all of that works together at the speed of DevOps? If you don't have an infrastructure that is designed for supporting topologies, meaning you can stand up a topology quickly, you can recall a topology quickly, you can record a topology, and then bring them together, bind them with real physical devices or virtualized systems, and run them at speed of DevOps, then you're really not going to succeed with DevOps. So that's really what I'm talking about. How do you do that?
Well, how do you do that? I mean, and what does Spirent bring to the table, and what do you bring to the table? Personally, what does the company bring to the table to solve these problems?
Yeah, so we have a number of tools as well as practices that help pull all that together. We have a tool called iTest, which is a topology-centric test creation environment. It is from the get-go aware of all the different nodes and interfaces of those nodes. It supports many different session types, so you can create a test case in a program-agnostic way, and it will drive kind of like a piano, all the different keys of the topology's interfaces.
Right.
And also we have a tool called Velocity, which works hand in hand with iTest. And what Velocity does is it is aware of the entire lab's worth of equipment and systems and machines. because you don't know necessarily in advance what needs to be interconnected with what until you have a topology. So it's no longer good enough just to have a view of the device under test. You have to have knowledge of the entire lab's worth of equipment and be able to stand it up on demand at DevOps speed. And that's really what Spirent brings to the party. These tools together with our professional services to help customers understand how can they stand up these complex situations such as SDN or mobile networks or financial networks and various types of topology-based test configurations at DevOps speed.
Right. Now, this is not something that's that easy to explain. So how do your customers just come to you and say, help? Or, how do you approach them? How do you kind of get this through to the higher level that this is what needs to be done in a way that, you can synopsize, but without dumbing it down? Because this is serious, complex stuff. Your initiative is going to fail if you don't do it, period. But how do you convey that, and how do your customers come to you, and how do you get involved, get working with them?
So a lot of it has to do with, as you said, often it's because they realize that they're having trouble. Mm-hmm. And we get called because, oh my goodness, how do we make this work? It seems like it ought to work. We got our builds right, we got the deployment right. Mm-hmm. But what about the testing part? Yeah. And they're struggling. How do we do these sophisticated tests at the speed of DevOps? Because, complex tests and quick time don't seem to go in the same sentence very well. Okay. Well, there are ways to do it. You have to have tools that were designed to be able to stand up topologies and to be able to run the tests at speed and be able to automatically, choose the topologies and bind the topologies at test time. The people that buy these tools generally are aware of that. At least they're aware that they're struggling in how to do it, and that's what when we get called in to help.
Okay. Spirent.com, Spirent, Spirent.com. We've been sitting with Marc Hornbeek from that company, talking about very complex subject in a short time. So to learn more, visit the website, talk to Marc. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Roger.
Thanks for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.